Welcome to episode 88 of the Eat for Endurance podcast. My name is Claire Shorenstein, and I'm a board-certified sports dietitian and runner based in Santa Cruz, California. Today, I am bringing a former nutrition client of mine on the show for an athlete nutrition profile. His name is Trey Duncan, and he just ran a 2:57 and placed second in his age group at the LA Marathon, which was his first marathon. What a different place he is in now compared to just 2 years ago when he was suffering from years of alcohol abuse and was about to enter rehab. He originally contacted me in August 2022, not long after finishing his program and getting sober, and we worked together on his nutrition for about 7 months. He had gotten back into distance running and needed a major overhaul of his everyday diet, a ton of work on other parts of his life like sleep and stress, and I helped him learn the basics of performance nutrition and apply that to his longer runs. I also recommended him to a coach so that he could train smarter because he was very prone to overtraining. Trey would occasionally get in touch after we stopped working together to share some wins from his running, and most recently he texted me about his LA Marathon results. After we caught up for a bit, and he had sent me this photo of him passed out on the streets of LA just 2 years ago, side by side with a photo of his recent marathon finish, I asked him to come on the show to share his powerful story. Just an FYI, I didn't do much prep for this one. I mostly just wanted to have a chat with Trey and see what would come up and what he wanted to share. I hope you enjoy it. And if you are struggling or have ever struggled with any form of addiction, I hope his story resonates and helps. So without further ado, here's my athlete nutrition profile of recreational distance runner, Trey Duncan. Trey, welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast. How is your day going so far?
It's really good, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. It's so good to see you again, too. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. It's funny. I was like, when was the last time we actually saw each other during a session? And I realized it was February 2023. I had to look back at my old notes.
Last one.
It was a while.
Yeah, I was training for a marathon for This was my third attempt. I kept getting injured, but yeah, that was the last one I saw you. It's been well over a year ago. Yeah.
Well, first, just want to kick things off. Huge congrats. I'm so proud of you. You smashed the LA Marathon and with a sub 3 hour. And you got the age play, or it was the second place in your age group, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, how old are you right now?
51.
51. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, wait, was this your first marathon finish?
Yeah. First marathon attempt.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize that. I thought you had run a marathon already.
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, that's amazing. How are you feeling? How's recovery been going?
Great. It feels really good. Yeah. And I start training tomorrow for, my favorite race is the Brooklyn Half, and that's on May the 18th, and I go right into that tomorrow. So
why is it your favorite race?
History there, I've done it 3 or 4 times. I love the race. I love the event itself. I love running through Brooklyn. And then just, where I am today versus where I was.
Yep. And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of that.
Yeah. Well, first, I mean, let's just focus on the present for a minute.
Of course.
What do you want to share with us about the LA Marathon? Tell us about your experience, how you were able to get to the start line feeling strong, whatever you want to share about that.
I felt so lucky to, I had tried the LA Marathon last year, 2023. I had to pull out. I got a stress fracture in my hip, and then I ran on a slight stress fracture. I almost turned it into a full break because I couldn't accept the fact that, so then I learned a hard lesson there. And then I attempted the CIM in November of 2023, and I pulled a calf muscle.
Oof.
And it was just, and then, so to get to just get him there, I have a coach, and, John, who introduced me to him, he's amazing. So it was just get to the starting line. And this one had its, it's had a couple of its, tweaks. For example, I did this half marathon in January to get ready for it. And I thought I may be done. I did something to my ankle, then I did something to my calf. And then the week, I got some cold thing, and I was powering vitamin C and zinc, and then toward the end, it would just get there, and everything came together. It was such a magical experience for me. Everything came together just that day. And, I've been doing what you, everything that I put in my body, the way I live, nutrition is what you don't know. I mean, everything I do is because of you. So, I've got my pre-race, my long run and my pre-race looks kind of the same, but
Mm-hmm.
I got fully situated for this. I got a hotel room downtown. I wanted this to be because I didn't know when I would have the time because I'm working to do this again, and I wanted
Mm-hmm.
everything to try to line up right. So I got a hotel room downtown. I got to the starting line. I got there on time. I had my pre-race nutrition down, evacuation, everything, which is crazy important to me, and
Yeah.
yeah. So and then I hadn't run one before, so I had a plan with my coach, and I didn't really stick to his plan. I didn't get
Of
into
course you did it. That's not a
I,
surprise.
I didn't get into the A corral because LA only
Okay.
takes, I have a bunch of half marathons, but LA doesn't take,
Yeah.
a half marathon time. So I got into, I joined the LA Roadrunners. I got into the B corral. So there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of this, in the beginning, but then it opened up fairly quickly. And then it was just kind of surreal and a blur. But I do remember, the memorable points of the race. There were a couple. Mile 10 or 11, like there's some psychological stuff, some mental, that crept in.
Mm.
And I started to slow down, because I was supposed to run a 650 pace to the last 10K and then maybe turn it on. And I with the watch and all that, and I wasn't with the
Mm-hmm.
pacer. So I was running in the 640s. And then like around the 11th mile, I started slowing down, and I noticed it was my thoughts. It was like negative thoughts.
Mm.
And I had to like really adjust, and I had to kind of like, get back right in my head. And then it was very strong thereafter. I pulled together a bunch of 630s and, in that range. And then I started noticing another noticeable difference was, I started running, really powering through with my core and using like my running technique, my running form. I hadn't really felt it like that before. And then it wasn't, there were no really difficult, incredibly hard moments through it. Mile 24, started to get like, mile 19 was hard for me because it was psychological, get to 20. And then mile 24, I just kind of slowed down. But it was a good race. It was a great race, and I'm very pleased with it. So,
That's awesome. So one of the things that John, your coach, shared with me was that you need constant pulling back, which I kind of chuckled at because I'm like, that is a lot of what I was doing with you, if you remember in the beginning when you didn't have a coach, and I was like, you need a coach. Um, but
you
I'm
talk to
really glad.
John?
Yeah,
Are you,
yeah. I just reached out to him,
yeah.
and because I was like, I'm so proud of him. He's doing great. And John's like, yep, he's doing great. He just needs constant pulling back. And I'm like, absolutely, he does, because you just want to like go, go, go all the time. And I don't know if you remember when we were working together, you'd be like running all around and biking all around and walking all around. I'm like, dude, you need to rest. You need to stop doing this. So I'm really
It's
glad you
funny you
have a
remember that.
coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember all kinds of stuff, but I'm really glad that you have a coach to kind of support you and all of that. And
Yeah.
no, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the team that comes with it, the Henwood Hounds, those guys
Totally.
are great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
How
So there was a great race. I don't know. The race was just amazing. So,
what did a couple more questions about LA and then we'll hit
yeah.
rewind. But what when you hit those kind of tough
Yeah.
psychological
Yeah.
points, how did you
Yeah.
kind of turn that around? And I know we're going to get into kind of your history and your story, and I'm sure you've
Yeah.
learned some tips and tricks there through therapy
Yeah.
and all of that, but
Yeah.
how did you get through those points?
I realized that if I didn't make an adjustment, things were going to go bad.
So
I
what
wasn't
was the
going to,
adjustment? Like how did you get yourself out of the negative self-talk?
I changed my thoughts.
Good.
I changed my thoughts. The bottom line. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew what the thoughts were, and I changed them.
Good.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, there
Awesome.
was just on the side, I'm fortunate enough to know Michele Graglia, who's one of the greatest ultra runners out there. He won the Moab 240, the Badwater 135, and he was talking, I kind of started to delve into outside of the nutrition, the body, the mind, the body, the
Mm-hmm.
spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and that. So I'm kind of like playing in that, that's kind of, and so it was kind of just coming, yeah, a lot of just through a lot of work I've done.
Awesome.
You know? Yeah.
Awesome. So let's hit rewind now. Often what I do with these nutrition profiles is, I like to start with, your nutrition roots, as I call them.
Yep.
I know I was actually looking back on our very first note because I was like trying to remember some just like little details about your history. And I was reading that you grew up in Texas on a farm. I think you had said you guys, the farm was beef and rice, or cattle and rice, I mean.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm sure that shaped many memories you have about food and mealtime and all of that. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, so, this can just be full honesty. We were a family of Coca-Colas, as a 70s kid, Hot Pockets and Coca-Colas and Doritos. And, there was, it was a lot. My dad was a cattle rancher and I grew up on a rice farm, but, what he did for a living didn't necessarily make it, that aspect and the food aspect weren't the same. And so, I didn't know how to eat as a kid, and I didn't, so I just kind of ate like other, I just ate what tastes good. And another part of my story was, I used food early on in my life to self-soothe. And I found out a lot about this later in life, but so I had a fairly unhealthy relationship with food, for a very long time, So that was my first coping mechanism, was food.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So just, childhood stuff. I used that as my first way to kind of, I think it was an escape, it was to soothe myself. It was with food. And then, later it became other things. But that was my first. So I didn't have I didn't have a strong nutritional foundation as a child to build on, later.
Did your family eat together at all, or
we did?
It kind of,
we did.
Yeah, okay.
We did. But then as we got older and in high school, we scattered, but when we were younger, we did. Yeah.
And at what point? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, we did. We sat around the table quite a bit, but then as we got older and in high school events and extracurriculars.
Hello.
Then,
I have a visitor.
It's Faye.
Who's that?
Yeah. Faye, my 7-month-old doodle.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Hello. So at what point do you, that's so cute. At what point did you start using food as kind of that self-soothing?
Oh, I was on Herbalife. My mom would make, young, I think, second grade. Second grade.
Like you in Herbalife, meaning like,
I had a weight prop. Yeah. As a kid, You
had a weight. Okay. So it was a weight thing that you were doing. Okay. Can you, do you feel comfortable sharing more about that?
Of course. Yeah. I was just a chunky kid, and I used to love to escape. I used, it was all about escapism. So it was food and it was television. It was, it was a lot of sedentary, I would escape through television and food. And then, I got overweight, and then, I broke my arm like 3 times before I was 10. So that didn't help. So, and I started putting on weight, and then, it was kind of, and then I, in high school, I lost a bunch of weight around my junior year. I lost a lot of weight because I discovered, girls, and, I wanted, so then I just stopped eating to lose weight, it wasn't,
So it sounds like your mom was your mom kind of putting you on a diet then? Was she trying to get you to eat less? Okay. Yeah. And then were you doing like secret eating or kind of that kind of stuff?
It was secret wasn't necessary.
Oh, okay.
It was, a lot of donuts on Sunday morning,
Okay.
weights. Okay. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of restrictions, dietary restrictions in the home.
Okay. Yeah. But your mom wasn't trying to like get you to lose weight though? Because
she was.
Oh, she was, but you would eat anyways, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Were you active at all as a kid or in high school?
So I rode BMX bike, and I tried baseball. I wasn't very good at it. And then in high school, I was on the golf team, which is a fairly, not a lot of. By that time, I lost a bunch of weight, though. That was after I, around 16 or 17. But I wasn't very active. And then I started running. I just, I I started running a little bit when I was around 16 or 17, when I was
Mm-hmm.
on my first weight loss journey. And that was just easy. Put on a pair of shoes and I could run. There was a 2 mile loop in my neighborhood, and I would do that. And I guess I kind of liked it, you know. And then I've noticed running was a constant theme throughout my life. Even, you know, in college, if I were going to get some kind of physical activity in, it would be through a run. And after college, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then I mean, I ran my first half marathon in 2015. And, well, you know, I didn't really train. I ran 140. So I've always kind of had an ability to do it. Just didn't know at what level until much
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we're gonna revisit running for you, obviously, but I want to explore a little bit more. You know, you said that you basically stopped eating to lose weight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was when, you know, you were in high school.
Yeah.
And what was, I mean, can you share a little bit more about that
Yeah.
experience and how that kind of,
Yeah. I was
that
like,
what that trajectory was like through college, and kind of just sharing a
oh,
little more about your relationship with food and how
yeah.
that went?
I mean, I essentially was like an anorexic. You know, I got down to about 135 pounds. And
Mm,
I just didn't eat. I just
yeah.
chose not to eat. Yeah. I would, I, you know, I would not eat. And,
Mm-hmm.
then I lost a bunch of weight, and then that was cool. That was, you know, then you got, you know, you look great, you know, from friends and family, and, you know, and you felt great. And so
Did you feel
that,
great?
well, you didn't, I don't remember how I felt as far as my health goes. I mean, I didn't feel anything
Mm,
like I feel today, but, you know, I was thin, and, you know, a
yeah.
lot of that's, you know, that was important because I was bullied, you know, when I was a kid
Mm,
for my weight.
yeah. 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 What
Yeah.
gave you the idea to just kind of stop eating? Is that, or is that just something that kind of came to you
Yeah.
since you
I just
loved
said,
food so much, right?
if you don't stick it in your mouth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I at that time you know, found tobacco, and I'd found other, you know, I kind of, yeah, I developed other bad habits, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did like substances enter the picture?
I started drinking I started drinking when I was 15,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, so I started drinking when I was 15, and then I started, you know, yeah, and then you know, then it just, you know, over time, you know, was there. So,
When did it become a problem?
oh, uh, you know, it started. I didn't drink hard alcohol until like 2014, I think.
Oh, okay,
Um,
so a lot later.
Look, my experience and my understanding is that if you have this, you know, disease, you know it. You know it. When did I know it? Like, when did it hit me? Young, you know, probably like 19, 20. You know, I
What
knew I had
was,
something. Something was different
yeah.
about me. My relationship with alcohol was different than other people's relationship with alcohol.
Mm.
I knew that, you know, and then I had to
How
look
did
up
you
the
know it?
definition, the way it made me feel, the way I used it. Um, I was from a small town. I went to USC,
Mm-hmm.
and it allowed me to, you know, to approach my ex-wife. It allowed me to, you know, break out socially and kind of
Mm.
shed the insecurities that, you know, came from being a ranch kid going to, you know, a big city. And, but I could, you know, uh, I know it's a good question. I don't know. How did I know it? You just knew it, you know, you just kind of know.
Mm. And was it always just alcohol, or was there anything else?
I'm going to push my dog off. Thank you. Um, no, just alcohol. I'd smoke pot, but nothing, nothing beyond that.
Mm. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, when I remember in our session, or when I was looking back at my notes, you had shared with me that you drink every day for 20 years. and that you had been sober. So we met in August of 2022, and you had been sober since April. And you sent me a picture the other day of you was that on the streets of New York City? Where was that?
That was in LA.
LA. Okay. So that was in LA.
It was almost 2 years ago to the day.
Yeah. And you were passed out.
That was when I had just kind of given up. That was right before I decided. That was 2 or 3 days before I decided to get sober.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to, maybe you can take us through this journey a little bit with, your substance abuse and how it maybe progressed and what kind of, because you were working, you have 3 teenage kids, like you had all these other things going on. You ran a half marathon through all of this, right? Like there are all these things going on.
A bunch of them.
Exactly.
I would go to the ashram in Calabasas, which is a famous health and wellness retreat. I'm the only guest who's ever done it 3 weeks in a row, I was always, health and wellness, was always something that, was important to me, and I always had the desire to kick this thing I had. I just never really knew how to do it. So so it's progressive, and then, social at first, and then eventually, the pandemic was what kind of brought it, accelerated the bottom, if you will.
So was it kind of manageable until then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How much would you drink a day?
Well, depends on the decade, it would, too much.
That's all relative, right? What is too much, I guess?
Well, I don't know. I never counted, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the pandemic happened. I remember you telling me you stopped running, and at some point you lose your job. You're in finance.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when that all lined up.
That's when, so my group, we kind of shut down. The work thing, the pandemic, I handled things, that's when I didn't handle things well. And I started to then lean into alcohol in early 2021, like never before.
Were you living in New York or LA at that point?
LA.
Okay.
So
you were always in LA. You were not in New York at all until we met?
I was in New York until late 16.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved back to New York in June of 2022.
Got it. After when we met. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I was in New York from June of 2022 to March of 2023.
Got it. And you were kind of living bi-coastally, like your family was always in LA, right?
So I had, my career was, New York finance, from my early 20s till later in my 40s. And then I moved the family to Los Angeles in late 16, and I would go back and forth between New York and Los Angeles, and the pandemic hit, and then that job, was gone. And then, I looked around Los Angeles, and I really wanted to be back in New York. So I ended up getting sober. I went to rehab. I got out of rehab, and I had knocked down enough doors in Los Angeles, and my world was really back in New York, and my relationships and my circle. And I went back to New York in June of 2022 as a tester. The pandemic had, the world had opened up again, and my business started, flowing again. So I went back, and the next thing you know, I'm kind of having meeting, and a week turned into 3 weeks. And then I said, I'm going to stay here. And, the thought was to move the family back to New York City. So I spent that time when I met you, started working with you around August of 2022 in New York, newly sober, and conducting a really thorough job search. Eventually
I remember that.
A job. And then eventually after I met you, I did get a job, and it was, ironically, it was here in Los Angeles. So, but
you got a job okay, got it.
In LA. So I'm working in LA. I have a great job. I'm very happy. I love it, and I love what I do. And I'm working with a great group.
Awesome.
And so I got sober a couple of years ago. So everything, on that front is, And then kind of just as a, what was interesting through all of it too is, throw a divorce in the mix. So the running and the, the mental health aspect of it, all that kind of comes in, to play here at some point.
What, going backwards for a minute, you said you'd kind of just given up and just, that, again, that picture, it is a very powerful picture, especially because you sent me that picture of you kind of asleep, passed out, whatever, on the streets in LA. And then the next one was you running the marathon in LA. And it was a very powerful juxtaposition. And I'm curious, what motivated you? What got you to rehab?
Well, and that picture was an anomaly too. I mean, it's, it happened. I was, I think I was sitting on a, eating pizza and I just talked out,
Today's show is brought to you by my self-paced course, Peak Performance for Endurance Athletes, your ultimate guide to strategic fueling. This 7-part series is packed with evidence-based, easy to understand information with tons of visuals covering everyday nutrition, hydration, intra-workout fueling, training the gut, performance and micronutrient supplementation, and preparing for race day. Grab the link to my course in the show notes or on my website, eatforendurance.com. And once you're there, you can preview the first part of Module 1. You can check out the course curriculum and read the detailed facts page. If you don't need or want a full course, I'm also selling several of the downloads from the course separately. They're mini ebooks on a variety of performance nutrition and everyday nutrition topics, and you can get each one for just $5 to $10. I also have a discounted bundle available. Again, head on over to my website and you can find the link. And lastly, if you're interested in one-to-one nutrition coaching, I do have some openings for new clients in mid to late April. You can fill out a new client inquiry form and schedule a free 10-minute call at my website if you're interested. All right, let's get back to the show.
So I went from that was my end. That was captured, to probably for somebody to show me, hey man, this is where we are, let's get some help. So, I'm grateful I have that photo, cause it's a reminder, so anyway, I was 215 pounds in that photo. I'm 265 on a good day today. Finally got the weight up because we were in the 250s there for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few days after that, I was sitting on my sofa and I have the text and I said, I'm ready to go. That was big for me to raise my hand. It's so hard to say.
No, for sure. No, I mean, of course.
You're telling the world, because you're doing it, and everybody's going to find out. And that's the fear because it's still considered a moral, nobody asked for this thing. Nobody wants this thing. Nobody wants, you didn't ask for this thing, but, not to get into the moral thing with it, but it's still misunderstood and there's still, you lose people and, you've lived a certain way for such a long time, you can't imagine living without it. So that was my bottom.
Yeah. And I think you meant 150 because I was looking back, I was like, you were in the 200s. You were 154 pounds when I saw you.
I was 215 in that photo.
In that photo. And then you dropped a lot of weight. We were trying to get it up.
I got down to 150. Yeah.
Yeah. You got really late.
I got down. I'm up to 165. So I have a healthy. Yeah. Because I was, in New York and I would wake up and I would swim and I would run and then I would walk.
Yep. You were doing all the things. Yep. 30, too much. 30, and then not eating anything.
Yeah. Well, I was doing the vegan thing when I met you. You
were. We got you doing some different things, but right. So you did rehab in New York or in LA, I imagine.
LA, Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it like you made that decision, or did someone talk to you, or what?
No, I
was
did.
that process like? You did.
I did because I didn't know any different. I didn't know if there were there's options. You don't have to. If anybody's listening, they don't have 30 days. And, I did the private chef, luxurious, whatever. You don't have to, it's kind of a blur. I don't think about it much. When people hear that word, I know it's such a big word, but for me, it wasn't. This is the work that's done afterwards that got to me where I am today. It was that, I became physically addicted to alcohol. And that's a place to go. It's a safe place to detox and remove the substance.
Mm-hmm.
So you can then start doing the work is how I look at it.
Yeah. And what
So
has,
I was a luxury for me to be able to do it because like in New
yeah,
York or here, when you go to various meetings and you meet people and they didn't have I have a lot of respect for those guys. That construction worker that's doing the union job, he's doing it on his own and he doesn't have the ability to go, finger paint and do whatever and have private, chefs. I mean,
yeah,
so anyway, um, yeah, I chose that route.
yeah. And I mean, how have you navigated staying sober? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I have my program and, everybody's got, and I have a good friend of mine, one of my best friends. He got sober about a year before I did, so I'm not alone,
Mm,
and I have a great network, a network of people. And there are a lot of people that are either quitting drinking or have, AUD, alcohol use disorder, alcoholism, that, that's for those who don't know, it's when you continue drinking, when it causes problems in your life. So, um, I have a good network of new people and I have, the fact that one of my best friends, and ex-colleague of mine for 20 years has gone through the same journey. It's to do it with somebody else, somebody who's done it before. I am in a
mm-hmm.
program. I do have a sponsor. I do step work and all that stuff. But there's no there's no there's no monopoly on sobriety. There's so many different ways people approach it. But I have a program that I work regularly.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, especially in the endurance world, and, we see a lot of like, not just alcohol, but all kinds of substance abuse and different forms of addiction, and people entering running or whatever sport they do, but often, like, especially I see in like the world of like ultra running, where, sometimes it's almost like a transfer of, I don't want to say like a transfer of
well,
addiction, but people kind of play, they kind of pour all that energy into this new pursuit. And, often with, we were talking about pulling back, you know, I imagine, especially you were unemployed, you were by yourself in New York. It was kind of almost filling time, right? And I remember
right.
you almost like you were just wandering the streets almost one night. I remember um, it can be
Yeah.
really hard to kind of take care of yourself safely, even in that way too, and really make sure you're not overusing exercise, right?
To that point about, the amount of the folks in recovery that are amazing athletes. I've met so many people along the journey and I spoke to somebody who was like a D1 athlete and I asked him and I said, why do you think there's so many great athletes that are in recovery? And his answer was the one that kind of made the most sense to me. And it kind of, when you imagine what we put ourselves through, to hide it, to manage it, to 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 function at a very high level when others probably would want to stay home and nap or whatever. I don't know. It's based on what we've been through. That you have the ability. I think it's just nobody. Yeah, um, I understand it. However, it was put to me. You know, um, and we're also. I think we're geared a little bit differently.
Mm,
People that have it. So.
yeah. What are your kind of coping mechanisms right now? Like, where do you, like, it sounds like you have a strong social, you said support network, um, exercise, I'm
Well,
sure is a release, but what else do you use to kind of cope? Because you're going through a lot right now, it
yeah,
sounds like.
yeah. Um, well, for me, I have no desire to drink. Like, I can go to a bar and I'm single and, I don't want to I eat out a lot. I don't want to sit at a table by myself. So I go to
Mm,
bars and I date and I have zero desire. There's no obsession to drink and it's just not a thing, right? It's
mm,
like, for me, I view it as, if you're a kid with a peanut allergy, just don't give him peanuts. You'll be fine. And so fortunately I'm blessed that I don't have to manage what you're talking about or cope,
okay.
you
Yeah.
know?
Okay. So you don't feel
Yeah.
the pull, it sounds like.
No, I have no desire to drink
Mm,
because to me, I've had a lot of great things happen since I got sober, you
you
know,
have. That's true.
so I don't want to give that up. And now I know it's still fresh enough I know how it feels to have a hangover or to have it
Mm-hmm.
in your body and you know, not be able to perform at your highest level. So, I don't want to lose that. And then I also know, it's not gonna, it's not gonna solve anything. For me, for example, and it's so true for many other people that are in this program or going through recovery, is it's not like I like alcohol. I like chocolate. Chocolate tastes good. For me, alcohol doesn't taste good. It was a way, um, to suppress feelings and not have to feel things that I didn't want to, and you say, okay, that works for a long time. So then my experience has been, is once you go through the process of feeling those feelings and really going through them and having a great therapist and, community sponsor, whatever it is. And then you get, and you go through, it's funny when you get sober, and if you've been at it for a bit, um, all those feelings come flying at you at the same time,
Mm.
and it can be overwhelming because you've been pushing them back for decades. And
Yeah.
so all that stuff you've been suppressing starts coming at you. And so to be able to learn how to, process those in a healthy way, and basically acceptance, right? For me, it's acceptance. That's the one word that I would say. Acceptance and gratitude are the two things that helped me get through this. And then also, you know, um, like my spirituality, I didn't really have much of one before. I kind of, but and then like the higher power thing that came into it. So all of that, then after you kind of go through that process and find a higher power, for me anyway. And it can be a group, it can be a person, it can be, I'm not talking about, conventional
Mm-hmm.
Judeo-Christian God, whatever it is. For me,
Mm-hmm.
then that I found that my obsession was to have a drink because,
Yeah.
and then now when I have a bad day or I have a bad thought in the marathon,
Mm-hmm.
um, I have muscle memory now to know that it passes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Thanks for explaining that. Um,
And
yeah,
I
I
used to
mean,
run when I first started
mm,
running. I used to run, I started thinking about like, because I went into this marathon in such a different space than I was when I first got sober, and then some other personal stuff has happened since I got sober. It was fairly traumatic, and I used to run, maybe in a more negative space, like out of just anyway, like I was running from something, and then
mm-hmm.
and then now, um, life is pretty good, and I feel a peace, that I really haven't felt in so long. And then I'm like, well, can I run with this? Can I run with this? Can I still run fast? Because I'm kind of a happy guy. I mean,
Well,
can I be?
you did just run fast.
I'm like, can I be a happy guy and run fast? And the funny thing is, in that marathon, when I had some negative thoughts come in, I thought those were the thoughts that were fueling my speed, when in reality, those were starting to slow me down.
Yes. Yeah. What a realization. And then you change your thinking and you were able to kind of get back on track. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What tell me a little bit about your relationship with food now. And I know we worked a lot on mostly just, as you were saying, you kind of were like when I met you were in more of that like running from things phase. And it really was like trying to slow you down, get you to chill, rest, whatever, and get you to fuel the work that you were doing. And also just kind of educating you on food. Like we really were kind of starting from square one with a lot of this stuff, and you're kind of all over the map with your nutrition. But now, that you've done a lot of therapy, you've done a lot of work, you're in this better headspace. You
Yeah.
have this history of, kind of a traumatic history with food and body and all
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you at now with all of that and feeding yourself and trying to make sure you're eating enough and body weight, all that kind of stuff? Like where do you sit now?
Okay. Um, so I took what you gave me and I stuck with it. And I've now had now I have the benefit of living alone for a couple of years almost. So, I gravitate toward what's easy. I prepare. I don't cook that much.
That I remember.
And, and so, what, uh, I eat a lot of, do you want me to get into like what I eat? How can you guide me through this conversation? So,
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about what you eat. I think first it would be interesting to hear about, just given the amount of work you've done on yourself and
yeah,
given that you have this history of basically restriction,
right,
trying to make yourself really small and
right.
struggling with feeding yourself. And then like, kind of, and then the alcohol abuse and all of that, like, how do you feel? So we can get into the details, but I'm actually right now more
Yeah.
interested on your relationship with food more generally right now, like how you
Well,
see it and if you struggle with food at any point, especially now that you don't have the alcohol
no.
as that numbing substance.
Oh no, no, none. I don't struggle with food. I love
Good.
food,
Great.
and I try to keep weight on,
Good.
and I'm back to your program of try to get 3 to 5, at least 300 grams of carbs a day, 100 grams of protein, because I'm always training for something now, and now I can really my biggest hole in my game is sleep. It's not food anymore.
Hmm.
And I
We
know, and
worked
I
on that too, I
hydrate,
remember.
and it's not it's better, but it's not anywhere where it needs to be.
Hmm.
But anyway, as far as everything, I mean, I can eat a bagel, pizza, and pasta in the same day. I love carbs.
Good.
Um, I don't have any food restrictions. I love food. Um, but my biggest hole in nutrition is frankly is, I saw your post today on Instagram and there's all these beautiful vegetables with different colors and I'm like, I got to somehow figure out how to get those in my body. But
Vegetables?
it's
You
a,
don't you're
yeah,
not big on vegetables?
I love them, but living alone, they go bad. But anyway,
Yeah.
I need to, I would say that's my hole in my game is because I do love them so much. I need to figure out how to get those in. But the relationship with food is so healthy because, I mean, I burn so many calories. I burn so many calories. I
Well,
do
you'd
something.
be surprised. Just burning calories doesn't mean you have a good relationship with food. I mean, I think
I
it's
have
probably the work that you've done on yourself that's kind of set you up
the
well
the
for that, right?
so the nutrition is important for my performance. And
Yep.
so I have a healthy relationship with food because I respect what the food can do for me. And I've had a year and a half now of working,
Hmm.
with it. And so I have a very healthy relationship and I have a respect for it. And I try to make sure I get what I out of food. Like for example, when we first met, talking about get as much as you can out of food versus supplements and things. The only supplement I take is omega 3.
Hmm.
And then everything else I get from food.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So other than vegetables, I was going to ask you, what are you still kind of struggling with your nutrition? It sounds like getting the veggies in, the fruits maybe, or mostly veggies. And is there anything else that you're kind of still having trouble with?
Oh my God, I love fruit. By the way, we haven't talked about fruit. Like, and I don't get enough fruit. I don't get enough fruit. I don't get enough vegetables. And I think if I can really start getting those in and make a conscious effort to put those in my body, I'll benefit. And I think my goal will be pretty close because I don't really struggle with the protein. I struggle with
Hmm.
being single. At this age for the first time. Then there's it. Then I don't like cooking a lot, so I eat out quite a bit, and so that brings its challenges. I would say
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the biggest challenge. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the easy way to get carbs too. You know.
Yeah. Totally.
But how I
Um,
get my veggies is just so is like I'll go buy a big thing of spinach or
mhm.
broccoli, and I'll cook it down and get it in my body. But right now it's
Yeah.
more about getting the stuff in that I think I need versus really having really beautiful food experiences, if you will.
Well, I mean, I think the post you're referring to is something I reposted from, um, it was about how you shouldn't stress about organic and especially like the whole dirty dozen and all of that. And you should just focus on getting plant foods and, in your body, and not, especially with like the cost of organic and just the cost of food prices generally, it's a lot of fear mongering. And I personally, I don't really pay attention to organic, and a lot of people, I mean, you can eat frozen veggies if it's a concern that things are going to go bad, like buy some frozen vegetables, or
I'm so glad you said that.
you can also, I mean, I remember a lot of our discussions were, because you didn't want to do much cooking, but you would do some assembling, and we kind of would do some Whole Foods kind of things, and the rotisserie chicken, like I remember like little bits and pieces. And, sometimes it's like, well, if you're willing to just like roast some veggies, or, I mean, if that's not an option, but let's say it were an option, you can just roast a bunch of veggies and you can eat those up within 3 to 5 days or whatever. You can kind of just like cook it for the week. Or maybe you're, maybe you are getting some frozen vegetables. Nutritionally speaking, they're great. They're frozen at the peak of freshness. It's more of a texture thing. A lot of people don't like it, but they're affordable and they don't go bad. So, I mean, there are lots of ways. Like smoothies are great, like for fruits and veggies and getting those in, and you can use frozen fruits and veggies for that. So there are many ways to get fruits and veggies in that's convenient and affordable. I have a lot of, I work with many, single people who often are talking about like, oh gosh, I don't want to make this huge batch of food because it'll go bad. And it's like, okay, well, you can freeze like part of what you're making, or, you can use these tactics, right? So I think it can be challenging for many people, but that can sometimes just be a useful strategy. But just to throw context in there.
No, I appreciate it, because I will start playing with the frozen, because I do try everything that you throw out. So I'll try the frozen vegetables, because I haven't thought of it before, because it just haven't,
It's, I mean, there's some that are better than others. Like for instance, I find like frozen peppers, like the texture is kind of gross, because it doesn't like a bell pepper is like, I think it's delicious because it has like the crunch. Obviously it's different if you cook it, but so I personally, there's some I'm just like, but there are a lot of like broccoli, cauliflower, peas, corn, like all those are pretty, like spinach, stuff like that. There, I mean, edamame, like there are lots of plant foods that you can, freeze. And I mean, you can even freeze like rice and other grains, and you can freeze almost everything. So there are lots of things that you can buy frozen and then just kind of, it's just very convenient. So because this is the reason why I wanted to go into it, because it's one that comes up all the time. Because I mean, you're not the only one struggling. Even people who are not single and they have plenty of mouths who would eat vegetables, a lot of people are struggling with that. And even I sometimes struggle to get enough in, because I'm just like, I don't feel like eating it or whatever. So you are not alone. That's just the message. Awesome. And what's on the horizon? So you have the half marathon coming up, and do you have any fall races that you have your eyes on or anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna take another crack at CIM in November.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and then unfortunately with this time, I'm gonna, I'll knock out. I mean, the goal is to do the Abbott World Series, knock those out. So I'm gonna really there's a couple. I just really am excited about going to Tokyo. Some teammates just got back. I heard so many great things about Tokyo. So
totally,
I would love to do that. I would say my least exciting one is probably New York. It just sounds like such a pain to get.
No, New York is so great.
Well, the logistics. I just don't like to wake up that early.
Yeah, it's logistically very annoying because you have to wake up early and you have to wait around forever. But it's an amazing race. You're gonna love it. It'll be so fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll find some stuff to do over the summer. I was even toying around with maybe the San Francisco Marathon in July. I don't know.
Okay. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want people to know about your experience, your journey, for anyone else who might be struggling? Anything else you want to kind of throw out there?
Well, I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Put you on the spot.
What could you, maybe if you want to guide me, because I don't, I want to make sure that I'm delivering somewhat of a clear.
This is up to you. Is there anything, I don't know, what's been helpful? Maybe there's something that someone else has said to you that's been helpful, or something that you want to share about your own experience. I remember you saying when I asked if you'd come on my show, and you're like, if there's one person I can help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. It's really up to you. It's an open-ended question.
Yeah. Well. So anyway, what I have found is that this is it's a very large problem, and it's not addressed because it's still, there's still stigma associated with addiction, you know? Um, Look, I mean, it was categorized as disease in 1957, I think. Alcoholism was an addiction in the 80s, and it still looked as like you know, as a moral failure, or, like a choice, you know? And it's so scary for anybody to, to, to get assistance, you know? I mean, I was never going to do it. It's very hard. A lot of people don't. And they just kind of live with it and manage it, and the families that are affected by it. Um, and I wish I had done it so much sooner. What I would tell somebody, what I would, it's not going to get better. It's not going to go away, you know, and you can't see, you can't see the other side. You can't see, you're like, probably like, not me. I can't do it. Um, but, um, I don't know. For me, it was like a divine intervention, if you will, to raise my hand and say, I need help, So, if there's somebody out there that's, probably has a family member or a friend or somebody, I don't have much advice, other than, God, I wish, I hope somebody that would maybe listen to this can see that I have it, and see how far I've come so fast, you know, and
Yeah.
that you can turn this thing around no matter what damage you think you've done or how far you've gone into this, and you may have 40 years, 50 years of use. Um, I don't know. I hope that somehow maybe somebody will hear this message and think about it. And, if somebody wants to DM me or something, I'd be happy to chat about my experience. But there's millions of, folks out there. There's so many resources, and now on social media, people are coming forward now, and the celebrity community is in a big way, which is great, I think, because, they have a platform in sports folks.
Yeah.
It's finally now, because in 20 years, this is just a mental health issue is what it really is. And we're already starting to talk about mental health in the same vein as we are about, physical health. And it's going to be
Yeah.
part of the total pie. And, um, I, yeah, I just, I hope there's something if there's anything, if I could help somebody in any way, I mean, God, if I ever got a letter or a call or a text with somebody that said what you said or my experience listening to you or whatever, I did, I changed my life or I got sober. I mean, God, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for sharing all of this. I learned a lot about you today that didn't come out in our sessions, right? I mean, we worked together for about 7 months, but, kind of a little sporadically towards the end. Um, and I think rehab was so fresh at that point, you didn't talk much about it, right? So I really enjoyed learning more about you. So thanks, Trey. I appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Well, thank you so much for, yeah, the dominoes were, was, getting sober, meeting you, and then John and this whole world now. And I always think about you. I do, and when I do things, I'm like, so clear. And then, yeah, the other day you popped in my mind. I'm like, oh, and you have shared your information with so many people.
I
And I think
appreciate that.
maybe a couple of some you. So I think you're doing great work. And I just downloaded your program,
Oh, the
to
course. Yes.
for the
Awesome.
one-on-one. So I look forward to diving into that and hopefully some more one-on-ones when I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's wrap up with I just call my quick bites questions. What is your favorite pre-run meal or snack?
Oatmeal and coffee.
Awesome. What about after a workout?
That's a big hole for me. I usually don't have anything in the car with me, but I'll usually run to Whole Foods and grab like roast beef and bread, and I just get my carbs and my protein, you know. But after a big run, after a big Sunday long run, or a race type of cheeseburger.
Okay. Awesome. What is the most interesting or exotic food you've ever tried? I don't know how much travel you've done, but
I don't think it's that interesting or exotic. I think most people would find uni. I love uni. I love the taste of it, fresh uni.
that's sea urchin, right?
Yeah, it's sea urchin. Yeah,
Okay.
so that would probably be it.
Got it. How do you like your eggs cooked if you eat eggs? I can't remember if you do.
I do scrambled. I
Okay.
love them. Anything that's a conduit
Awesome.
for hot sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite beverage?
Um, Coffee.
Coffee. Nice. How much coffee do you drink?
Just 2 cups. But
Okay.
it's my favorite. You know.
That's right. Do you put
And
anything
you
in
know
your
what I do? You know what? Yeah. Listen,
what?
no, but what I've been doing recently is Soda Stream. I do a seltzer with tart cherry juice
Oh, nice.
for the melatonin
Yeah,
effect.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a
Very
good one.
cool. My current obsession is pomegranate juice with lime seltzer or lemon seltzer and lots of ice. And it's just so tasty. It's
Yeah,
my fave.
yeah, love
Super
it.
yummy. Similar to the tart cherry situation. Um, what are your comfort foods?
Pizza,
Pizza? Nice. Do you miss New York pizza? Do you get
100%.
do you get good pizza in LA? It's such crap out here in Santa Cruz. I'm just like sad.
Prince Street Pizza that's on Elizabeth and Prince in New York has opened up out here about
Oh,
4 or 5 locations, and it is good.
okay.
It's
You're lucky.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we're lacking on the bagels, but
It's the
yeah,
bagel situation is dire out here.
we have
Very
one
bad.
bagel place, but yeah, pizza's
Okay.
my comfort food.
I feel LA's in a much better place than where I'm at, but yeah, totally. Do you enjoy ice cream? And if so, what's your, oh, actually, no, you're kind of lactose intolerant, aren't you? If I remember. Yeah, you don't do
I
dairy.
no, I didn't.
You didn't. Now you do?
We haven't talked about that in a big way.
Oh. Oh,
I
okay.
love it. I love ice
Good.
cream.
That's great.
I
What's your
do
favorite
think that
flavor?
okay, I'm gonna plug. I've got some friends out here. They opened up this thing and it's amazing. It's called Hokey Pokey, and Hokey Pokey is a flavor. It's like a toffee flavor that comes from New Zealand. And so Hokey Pokey ice cream is now like my new favorite thing.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, it's famous like in New Zealand. It's like their go-to flavor. But yeah, it's like a
Wait,
toffee.
so you're eating like yogurt and milk and all that stuff now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You
Well,
gotta work.
I started with when
I
for the
can't remember.
bones when I got the I don't
That's
know.
right. Yeah. I
Yeah,
forgot.
I
Okay.
switched to
Cool,
milk.
cool, cool. Yeah,
It still
yeah,
does a little something to my stomach. I don't do too much,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And last question, top 3 items of gear that are most essential to your active lifestyle.
Well, I have to have my Saucony endorphin shoes. Those are
Mm-hmm.
my trainers. And then the Garmin Phoenix 6 or whatever
Nice.
version I'm gonna have. I can't live without this. I check all my stats in the morning before I check my emails. And then for my active lifestyle, my God, those are my running shoes with that. Oh, and
Strava.
I need. No. I'm wearing them right now.
Oh, your
I have.
earbuds.
I can't go if I can't find these. I'll go right on Amazon and it's the Air Beats. I can't
Oh,
run
okay.
without them. I can't. I get a panic attack when I can't find them. So it's these. Yeah.
Nice. And I forget because your like real name or legal name is George, but you go by
George.
Trey.
It's George
Remind
Olin.
me,
It's
remind
George
me where Trey
Olin.
came from.
George Olin Duncan the third, and in the South, Trey is a common nickname for a third, like Uno dos Tres.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
take
Got it.
on
Got it. Got
three.
it.
Like when you
Yes, yes, yes.
hit a three pointer,
Yes.
you hit Trey.
Got it. Okay. Because I'm sure I asked you this like ages ago, but I was like, where did Trey come from? I have it
My
as George
mom,
Duncan, everyone. I like have to remind myself, oh no, it's Trey.
yeah, my mom said I'm not calling him George. My dad said you can call him whatever you want. So
That's hilarious. Awesome, Trey. It was so great to see you. I'm so
yeah,
proud
you
of you.
too.
You're doing
Thank
great.
you.
I'm
Thank
excited to
you.
hear how you like the course, which is my new course, Peak Performance, of course, which I've been plugging everywhere. So if people want to get it, it is available. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck in the half marathon and can't wait to hear more
Thank you.
from you.
Thank you. All right.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
That's our show for today. I hope you all enjoyed that one. And if you did, please make sure you hit follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And if you have a minute, I would be so grateful if you could also rate and review my show. If you're able to support the show financially, I have a Patreon page and I'd love to see you over there. Patreon members get some really great perks, including free merchandise, huge discounts on my digital downloads, and so much more. Thank you so much for your support. Please feel free to email me anytime, claire@eatforendurance.com, if you have feedback, questions, or topic requests. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.